wanted to do a little lesson on balance between the voices in Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata. My favorite piano student just surprised me with the best lesson ever. She said, I've been working on a little surprise for you, and she sat down and she played the entire first movement of Moonlight Sonata. It was amazing. So then we, no wrong notes or anything, it was perfect. It was so good. And then we started talking about like the fine tuning of balance between the voices. And after talking about it for a little while, I realized like I really need to explain this more. So I thought I'd share a little video lesson since it's a pretty common piece. Lots of people study it. So anyway, there are different levels of volume between different parts, and there are three main parts in this song, right? There's the low part with the left hand. That's basically like super slow octaves. Really slow, right? But it's just long, low notes. So that's one. And then there's the middle part that's kind of like, I think of it as like a current, kind of like a river running, but it's not that important. It's kind of background in a way. It's just giving this sort of ambiance. But these notes are very quick. So this part, there's that part. Okay. Sorry about the wrong notes. That is the middle voice, and then we have the upper voice where we have kind of this melody that soars over the top of the river that's churning. Okay, so this part. So the thing to think about is the fact that like we need to hear all three of these parts. But if we play all of them at the same volume, there's going to be too much going on. And the river in the middle can actually interrupt the beauty of the outer voices. And so you have to use this really delicate sense of balancing what's the most important thing to be listening to and make sure that the other things that are happening are not interrupting that. Let me explain a little bit more. We have really long notes in the left hand. And if we want to hear that note happening for 4 whole beats, which is actually 6, 9, 12 of these little arpeggios, if we want to hear that ringing for that long, we need to actually play it pretty loud, because there's a lot of interruption. There are 12 little tiny triplet notes in there that are trying to like get our attention. So these long, low notes actually need to be fairly loud in order to keep them ringing and to hear the line, to hear them go from one to the next. So even though it says pianissimo, those those octaves at the bottom need to be definitely louder than this, right? Because if we play this pianissimo and we play this also pianissimo, then what happens is we don't hear the long note anymore. This takes over. And this is supposed to be in the middle. It's supposed to be in the background. It's supposed to be underneath. It's like a current underneath the music, but we don't want it to overtake the longer, bigger foundation. And so it's a really delicate balance. So in my opinion, at the beginning of this piece, you really do have to hit the very first note with the left hand, that really low C sharp. You have to hit it with quite a bit of arm weight. You need to make it ring so that it's nice and loud. And you not only hear this for 4 beats, but you hear it loud enough that it kind of carries over to the next one. That carries over to the next one. By the time you get to hear that first C sharp has kind of dissipated and died away. But you've got to really hit that first note long enough that it makes a long line that's 4 measures long. And so I would say, not that we want it to be accented, but that we want it to be strong, we want it to be sustained, and we want it to actually have some weight into it, so that those long notes can be heard amidst the churning of the middle section. Okay, so that's the first thing. The left hand against the middle. I would say the left hand really does need to be louder than the middle, the quick arpeggio notes. But now we have the question of what's more important as far as volume, the left hand or the right hand melody? Because the right hand melody does need to sing, but the right hand melody moves a little bit more. So even still, I think when you think of the hierarchy of the dynamics, the balance of this piece, the left hand low notes need to be the loudest. They are the foundation, and they are long, and they need to stay sustained. The middle section, that needs to be really soft, really soft. I mean, to the point that you're not coming out of the keys. You may not actually sound every single repetition of every single note. Like you're just... Do you hear how it's like so light, like no weight at all. It's like floating like jellyfish fingers, just really, really lightweight. And then on top of that, we put this kind of this ringing, this repetitive theme, and that's going to soar above the arpeggios. But it's not going to cut in so much to these really long low notes that they disappear. So we still need to have that sense that those long whole notes in the left hand are continuous, and that we're hearing them all the way through to the end of the measure until they go to the next note. So very delicate balance that takes a lot of like listening and adjustment between your hands. All right, so now that I've said all of that, maybe I can demonstrate a little bit. So as we begin, we're just going to give a nice, strong first low note with the left hand. And this in the right hand is going to be nice and soft. So at this point, I can hear the middle part, but I can't really hear the low part anymore. So I didn't hit this hard enough. I want to still be able to hear that low note ringing while I'm churning through these arpeggios. So the balance here should be... Can you still hear the bottom note, even though I'm playing a bunch of notes on top of it? That's because I gave that enough weight, enough kind of depth. And if I don't do that, I'll give you a contrast where we might hear... So then your ear kind of goes to the arpeggios in the middle, and we don't want that. We want to hear the long ringing note. Okay, so moving on from there. Ringing out above. So right there at that point, we should still hear this in the bass. We don't want the little repetitive G to take over the low note in the bass. So we need to make this attack 4 beats earlier loud enough that this top figure fits into it, but it doesn't take over it. Okay, so I'm going to start a measure back. Okay. It's a very delicate thing. It's something that takes years and hours and just kind of lots of practice and also lots of listening and lots of just becoming a little more refined as a pianist. So this is a big concept. It's not beginner, it's not intermediate, this is advanced. This is where we're getting into the level of like professional musician, where we're fine-tuning things so discreetly. But that's what makes the difference between playing the notes and being a musician. So think about it and how this applies to your playing of this piece, and see what you can do with it. See if you can make some magic. So to recap, the left-hand notes, because they're so long, you need to play them the loudest of everything, because we want to hear the long continuous line of that left-hand bass part. And so it's actually going to be louder, I think, in the attack of the notes. It's going to be louder in volume even than the melody that's happening in the right hand. The loudest will be the bottom. The medium level of loud will be the melody. Also ringing, both of them need to be ringing and resonant and present. And then the inner voices, which is what you hear the most of, it's probably the most familiar part of the song, that actually just needs to be very subdued. Sotto voce is actually what's written by Beethoven in the music. So under the voice, like underneath. It's just a very little tiny soft sound, a current that's traveling underneath the layers and the foundation of the bass part and the melody. So hope you learned something. If you have any questions, share them and I'll try and answer. Happy practicing.